it's Angie the Coder, and today we're going to start diving into the 2021 EM changes. You guys, unless you've been under a rock out there somewhere, you probably are aware that in 2021 the evaluation and management codes are going to change. The AMA has posted that information out there, and I'm going to put an actual link to the guide that I'm going to be discussing today in the description below. That way you guys can actually go and get the source document that I'm going to be talking about today. But what we're going to talk about today are 5 facts that you need to know before the EM changes in 2021. So let's get started. Okay, as promised, today we are going to talk about 5 facts you need to know about the 2021 EM changes. And without further ado, let's hop on in. Fact number 1, not all EM codes are going to change. These changes are not going to affect every single EM code, only certain ones. And I've heard all kind of rumors and myths about how EM coding is going away and we won't need to be doing auditing at all anymore, and all kind of different myths. But hopefully this video is going to dispel some of those myths, because although a lot is changing, it's not everything. Not everything is changing. So let's see what is changing. First of all, Office codes 99202 through 99215 will change. And I did write that correctly. 99201 is going away. It will not be in the 2021 codebook, and I'm going to show you why in just a moment. So also changing will be the prolonged services codes 99354, 55, 56, and I think also 57, which I don't have on this slide right here. And there will be the addition of prolonged service code 99XXX. Yes, X's. I typed that correctly. We're going to have a CPT code for an EM that has X's on it. Interesting, huh? So this is something very new and not like anything we're used to before. So let's go on to about fact number 2. All right, for fact number 2, this is the one that's probably gotten the most buzz out there, and that's that the history and exam is going to change. So, history and exam will no longer be used to level office visits, and it's just office visits. This has nothing to do with any of the other EMs. They will still be done the same, but for the office visits codes 99202 through 99215, we will no longer be counting bullets for the exam. We will no longer be figuring the level of HPI, review of systems, past medical family. All of that is going away in 2021 for the CPT codes 99202 through 99215. There will still need to be a medically appropriate history and exam documented. So the documentation of a history and exam do not go away. That is still necessary for good patient care, and it is still expected to be in the record, but we will not be using that information to level those services. This will not change for any of the other EM codes. I'm just reiterating that again. This is only for the office visit codes 99202 through 99215. Fact number 3. Now we can level EMs using only medical decision making. Now, since they've taken away and said we don't have to level based on history and exam anymore, we do have 2 things we can level on. We can either level based on the medical decision making, or we can level based on time. So the first one we're going to look at is how to level with MDM. All right, there will be 4 levels of MDM. You will have, let me get them real quick and make sure I give them to you. You're going to still have straightforward, low, moderate, and high, just like you did before. But the levels are going to line up with the numbers now, and this is why 99201 went away. Now, for a straightforward, you're going to have level 2. It'll be 99202 and 99212. For low, it'll be 99203 and 99213. And I'm going to show you that in the source document later. But basically now your levels are going to line up. So if you have level 2, it'll be the same level of decision making for new versus established. And I'm going to show you this. When I show you the source document, you'll see how much neater this is going to be. It's just going to be a lot cleaner and neater. Okay, and there is a risk table-like tool that you can use that you will be using to do your MDM leveling. So I'm just doing a real quick video of the tool right here so you can see it. We will go to the source document and go through it in just a little bit, but as you can see, this is how you're going to select your levels based on this tool. Don't get too worried. I am going to give you the link to the source document in the video, in the details underneath the video, as well as I'm going to show you this in more detail at the end of the video. So keep watching. So that's medical decision making. But fact number 4 is that now we can level based on time. So like I told you, there are 2 ways to level: medical decision making or time. So to level based on time, time alone can be used, as I just said, to select the level only for codes 99202 through 99215. Time may be used even if no counseling or coordination of care. So this is where we're going away from the regular guidelines that you're used to. Currently, if you want to level based on time, there needs to be a statement about counseling and coordination of care, and it has to be greater than 50% of the total time, and all that has to be well documented in the record. Now, time can be just the total time spent with the patient during the encounter. For all other EMs, nothing changes. It will stay the way it is currently, and that's that you must document counseling and coordination of care to bill based on time. All right, and you're going to use the time descriptors in CPT to select your level, and we're going to look at those. When I show you the source document, I'm going to actually show you what the times look different now than they used to look. So I'm going to show you that. And you will use 99211 to report time spent if you're a physician supervising clinical staff who provided face-to-face encounter. All this is very well documented in the source document that I'm going to, like I said, give you the link to in the description below, and I recommend very highly that you print it up, get your highlighter out and your pens, make lots of notes, and be ready to explain this to your providers. Now you're going to report for prolonged services, we're no longer going to report the old prolonged services codes for office visits. For office visits, if there's prolonged services, we're going to be using that new code I told you about, 99XXX. Fact number 5, prolonged services are going to change. So at the very first slide, I was telling you that prolonged services are some of the codes that will change, and this is what's going to change about them. You will no longer be using the prolonged services codes for office visits. Instead, they've added the code that I keep mentioning, 99XXX, which apparently amuses me a lot. And this is how you're going to use that code. So if you have this is at the top of the table, you'll see the new patient if there's prolonged services. And at the bottom of the table, you'll see how to do an established patient if there's prolonged services. So let's just kind of quickly go through it. If you have a patient who, say, the provider spent 85 minutes with, and it was a new patient, you would bill 99205 times 1 unit and 99XXX times 1 unit. If it was an established patient that the provider spent, let's say let's not do that. Let's say you spent the provider spent 84 minutes with an established patient, then you would bill 99215 times 1 and 99XXX times 2. All right, so you guys are probably really excited. I almost want to do like a drum roll here. Let's go out and take a look at the source document. Okay, without any further ado, here we are out on the source document that I have been teasing you about during the whole video. You can Google this. It's on the AMA's website. You can go out there and get it. or you can just click on the link that I promised that I would put in the description below just to make it a lot easier. I have printed this up. I have a copy on my desk that I'm referring to. I recommend that you do that. If you're not one to kill trees, and I totally respect that, then you may want to save this on your desktop somewhere. I've done both because I feel like I'm going to need it more than once. So I have copies of it. A copy on my desk that's printed up and a copy saved to my desktop. If you are a big OneNote user, this is another document that'd be really cool to put in your OneNote. So let's go through it. First of all, they're telling us this is effective 2021, and they're giving us all kind of information here. They're telling us about time and how we're going to be using time. And let's go through. All right, this part right here, it starts in the red. It says services reported separately. I recommend that you read this very, very carefully. This is some stuff that as coders and auditors, we've already been probably practicing, but here it is in writing from the AMA, and I would recommend that you take this very seriously. And basically what they're saying in a nutshell here is, because decision making is going to be so important, because you can level an entire visit based on decision making. You cannot count for, say, a radiological report or a lab report in your medical decision making that your provider is going to bill with a modifier 26. Or in the case of an EKG, if your provider can bill for that service and is going to bill for that service, you're not going to count that as part of your test in your medical decision making as him reviewing it. You should not count it in both places. You should not double dip. This is basically saying pay attention not to double dip and give credit in MDM for something that you're going to bill separately for. Okay, so read that carefully. Make sure I'm telling you correctly, but that's important to note that they're telling us be careful not to double dip. This is where it goes into explaining that the history exam will be going away. It does say that you still should be providing a medically appropriate history exam, but we will not be using that information as part of our decision making or part of our level choices. Now, it does go into serious detail with these. I could do a whole video on these definitions. They go into very specific detail on what they mean when they say a problem, what they mean when they say a problem that's addressed, and what the provider has to do to address a problem, what a minimal problem is versus what a self-limited or minor problem is, versus what is a stable chronic illness, what is a acute uncomplicated illness or injury, and so forth. This stuff will look very familiar to you because a lot of this stuff comes right off the risk table, but I recommend that you read these definitions very well to make sure that nothing has changed from the risk table that you're currently very comfortable and used to using. I will tell you, you want to look at where it talks about what the tests are. And it says tests would be considered imaging, labs, psychometric, physiological data. It goes specific about how if it's a panel, it's only counted as a single test. A lot of this stuff is kind of common for coders, but we want to make sure our providers understand this, and we want to make sure that as coders that we are following these guidelines. It talks about what are external records, what are external physicians. It talks about who is an independent historian and what is an independent interpretation, which is a good thing to pay close attention to that. And this one is very important to note. They go into detail about the drug therapy requiring intensive monitoring for toxicity. And I know from being an auditor that coders and auditors debate this, and they do a lot of research on this. We go out to the MACs and we see what the MACs say about this and all this, but the AMA has actually put a really good statement here saying that the monitoring, it tells you kind of what it means by intensive, what makes it intensive, and that the monitoring is for toxicity of a drug, not for efficacy. So we're not monitoring, when the provider's doing monitoring of a drug, they're not monitoring the drug to see if the drug is effective. They're monitoring the drug to see what kind of side effects it's causing in the patient. And that is they're telling us make sure you understand the difference between monitoring for toxicity versus monitoring just to see if the drug is working. And they give some really good examples. They give some examples that you will see in real coding life, which I appreciate. Like down at the bottom, they say examples of monitoring that do not qualify include monitoring glucose levels during insulin therapy as the primary reason is therapeutic effect. So what you're doing when the doctor is monitoring insulin glucose levels, if the patient's getting insulin, they're just seeing if it's working. That's normal monitoring. It has nothing to do with toxicity. All right, so I suggest you pay very close attention to that, because medical decision-making leveling is, you're going to have to be very accurate with it. We can't just like fly by the seat of our pants doing medical decision-making when that is, if you're basing your entire EM level on decision-making, you need to make sure you're following these rules correctly. Because it's no longer a 2 of 3 situation with an office visit. It is 1 of 1. Is the medical decision making at the level it needs to be, or was the time documented? Those are the 2 things you're going to look at. And that's where this section here, I definitely recommend you read these instructions, where it starts with the red, where it says instructions for selecting a level of office or other outpatient EM service. They're basically telling you what I've already said, and that you're going to choose your level based on either medical decision making or time. And then they go into detail on how to level based on medical decision making, step by step, what you should be looking for, right? So pay very good attention to this. This is very important. And then we get to this, what I call risk table looking tool. If you'll notice on the far left column, it'll give you the code. And this is the part that I think is so neat. Since they got rid of 99201, your levels line up. So straightforward is a level 2, whether it's established or whether it's new. And this is so cool. I've been waiting for them to do this. A low is a level 3, regardless of whether it's established or new, and so forth. And you'll look at level 4 and level 5. Fantastic. They're only those 4 levels, and they line up perfectly with each other. I love it, love it, love it. And then if you come across, after it tells you, let's go back down here, straightforward, then it'll tell you, you've got your columns, so you've got your type of medical decision making or your level, and it's based on 2 of the 3 elements of MDM. Now the elements are the last 3 elements on the last 3 columns. So your elements are number and complexity of problems addressed, amount and or complexity of data to be reviewed and analyzed, and it says each unique test or order or document contributes to the combination of 2 or combination of 3 in category 1 below. So if you go, seeing that there are your categories, category 1, category 2. And then if you've got your last element of medical decision making is the risk of complications and or morbidity or mortality of patient management. And so literally what you're going to do is you're going to go and you're going to plot it all out on this chart, and you're going to go with 2 of 3. So you'll go with the 2 of 3. So if you have 2 in a row, that row will be, say you have 2 in a row for low, it'll be low. If you have them spaced out, then you'll, I'm assuming, go with the middle one and see if they say. Okay, yeah, must meet or exceed. Okay, so to qualify for a particular level of medical decision making, 2 of the 3 elements for that level of medical decision making must be met or exceeded. So that's how you would do it. So let's think, met or exceeded. If you have 1 in low, 1 in minimal, yeah. So you would go with the middle one. If you have 3 different levels, let's say you have a minimal in column 1 and you have a limited in column 2 and you have a
moderate in column 3, then you would go with the low. You would go this limited here. You would go with 99203. So I promise you there'll be an upcoming video where we actually take a fake or redacted medical record and we do one of these we level it using the EM so you guys can see what that looks like. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask you if you have an example that is completely redacted, has absolutely no patient information on it. I would like you to send that to me at Angie@angiethecoder.com, and I will be happy to do a video on it. Remember, it has to be an office visit, okay? So send me if you have an office visit that is totally redacted and has no HIPAA information on it, then please send that to me at Angie. It's the email address is Angie@angiethecoder.com, and I'll be happy to do a video using your example, and we will level it using this. All right, so that's how to level based on medical decision making, just the nuts of it, just the bare bones of it so you can see it. Now let's get into the rest of the document. This, my lovely coders, this is a sneak preview, can't talk today, of what your code book is going to look like in 2021. I'm sorry, I get excited. I mean, it is April and we get a sneak peek of the code book. Heck yeah, I'm excited. As you can see, we have a bunch of triangles for new patients. If you'll look, you have the green text that says 99201 has been deleted. Then you have all these green triangles, which mean that, hey, we've changed these descriptions. And as promised, look, I told you the time is changing. See what it says? 15 to 29 minutes of total time spent on the date of the encounter. So there you go. Isn't that cool? And then established patient, look at all the triangles, look at all the changes, and your time is totally different than it used to be. I'm pretty sure. It looks totally different. Oh, and then I want you to look at the bottom of 99215. It says, for services 55 minutes or longer, see prolonged services code 99XXX. It also says that on the bottom of 99205. And then it gives us a preview of what the prolonged services code is going to look like in the code book. Now, notice in the parentheses at the top in red where it says except, these are your prolonged services code with direct patient contact except with office or other outpatient services. So, yeah. And then if you come down here, keep going. To here. This is where they give you your 99XXX code, and it gives you, this is what it's going to say in CPT about that code. It tells you that you can only use it in conjunction with 99205 and 99215, and you can see it's a red circle, so that means it's a new code. And there's the little chart that I showed you guys that I definitely recommend that you might want to print that up if you don't print anything else up, if your providers tend to use prolonged services codes in the office. So there you go, my lovely coders. There is your very quick and dirty sneak preview of what this document looks like. Now, if you guys haven't already looked at it, aren't you excited to go out there and check it out? Aren't you excited to print your own copy of this thing and dig into it? And you probably can't wait to tell your providers that everything they've heard about the changes is not really 100% accurate, and that you, their expert, you now have the source document and you're ready to explain to them what they need to do differently and what they need to prepare themselves for going into 2021. So there you go.
Okay, so those are the changes. What do you guys think? Do you like them? Is it as bad as you thought it was? Is it better than you thought it was? Are you looking forward to it? I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think it's going to be kind of cool. And anyway, if you want us to do an example, because I think it would be fun to code an example, send me a redacted note at Angie. My email address is Angie@angiethecoder.com. Let me say that again because that came out all wrong. Angie at angiethecoder.com. Like I said, redact it. Make sure there's no HIPAA information on it and send it to me, and then we will do another video where I share one of your examples and we try to code it together. How does that sound? So if you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up. Really love that. I really appreciate that. What I like even better is hearing from you guys. So if you have any comments, questions, observations, or any suggestions for future videos, please put that in the comments down below. Don't forget that in the description is where you can always find the links to whatever I discuss in the videos, and hope you guys have a great day. See you later.